Hello again, welcome back to Hangar 51. Today we're going to do a quick build tips and review of the beautiful Avro Lancaster from Hobby King. It's this is version 3 of the Avro Lancaster, and I'm going to show you a little quick build tips and then give you my final review. So let's get to the build. Okay, so now we're going to install the wings onto the fuselage, and before you start putting it together, just take each wing here and just kind of squeeze it down here. Roll your fingers off the front like this and just kind of give it a little squeeze. Okay, what this is going to do is going to kind of smoosh the foam in this leading edge. Now, the fuselage, it's going to go all the way into the fuselage to way back here. So this is all not seen. It's inside the fuselage. It just makes it kind of gives it a little taper. Okay, so it slides into the fuselage much easier. So just roll your fingers over it, top and bottom, just this inner edge here, okay, on both wings. It's not going to look like you're doing anything, but trust me, it's going to be much easier to put in. So just kind of give it a little squeeze, roll your fingers over it, okay? And then do the other one too, all right? So we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to kind of give it a little squeeze and roll my fingers off the edge of it here, okay? And that's all the prep you need to do to put the wings on. That's it, all right? And then the instruction manual says to put a piece of tape on here. So the two rods, the long one goes in the front and the short one goes in the back. There's nothing important about putting the tape on the rods. Any kind of tape, doesn't matter. All you're doing is preventing the rod from sliding past the fuselage. It's going to stay in the fuselage. They drilled the hole so deep that the rod could just slide all the way to one side or the other. You don't want it to do that. So the tape is only there to prevent that from sliding all the way into the wing. It just stops it, keeps it in the middle of the fuselage where it has to be. So you have all this rod on each side, on each wing half. Okay? So there's nothing critical about the tape. Any kind of tape, Scotch tape, electrical tape. This is masking tape for painting. It doesn't matter what kind of tape. It doesn't matter how big you make the circle. 2 or 3 times around's plenty. 1 time around's enough, but if you want to go 2 or 3, whatever, not important, not critical. You just, all it's there for is to stop the rod from sliding in a bank unloaded. You could get the airplane in a situation where this rod would slide all the way out of the wing into the other wing, and now you have no support in the one wing. So a high G maneuver will pull the wing off of it. So the tape is just to keep it there in the middle so that you've got rod in both wings all the time. Okay, no big deal there. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to grab the fuselage, and we've got it upside down. All right, and there's a wire here for the elevator that goes all the way to the back, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it on top of the rods. I think it's just going to keep it out of the way better. So this elevator servo lead here that's in the fuselage, let it lay in the, it's actually laying in the top of the plane. When I put the spars through, it'll be above. When I flip the plane over, they'll end up, this wire will stay above the spars. It's not critical either way. I just think it's going to stay out of, stay in the airplane. When I flip it upside down and put a battery in it, I don't want this wire getting in the way. I don't want it falling out of the plane where I have to keep putting it back in. So I think it's going to be better if I capture it above, below it while it's upside down. Leave it down in the fuselage when I put it together, and then when I flip it over, it'll keep the wire above the spars. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so the first wing on, I guess we'll do this one first. So this is the right wing. You get all your wires out of the wing, you know. So what you have here, you have 3 motor leads, and well, actually, you only have 2 motor leads. That's interesting. And then 2 servo wires. Okay. And one's marked aileron, and the other one is marked probably throttle, I would guess. Yeah. And the other one's marked throttle. Okay. So that's all you have. You have the 2 motor leads and then 2 servo leads. Okay. So we're going to slide this into the wing, or into the fuselage, like this. And if you've done the squeeze thing, then this is going to slide together pretty easy. If you haven't, you're going to have a fight, and then you're going to go back and squeeze it like I told you to. So trust me, go ahead and do the squeeze thing first, because it'll make this a lot easier. Now I'm having a little trouble with this one wire is curling, so you know, I'm going to just roll it back the other way so it doesn't curl. It'll be a little easier to get these keep them above the spar. So these wires I'm going to keep above the spar because I need to be able to get them in the receiver, and I think it'll be easier to keep these above the spar. They're short, so they're not going to fall out of the plane, so it'll be a lot easier, I think. So that's just the way I'm going to do it. All right, so you get them in there, and you slide the wing in. Okay, and you can see that the wing went all the way in. If you look inside, it's not going to show up on camera probably, but inside the fuselage here, you can see that the wing slid all the way in until it's flush with the inside of the fuselage. So make sure you get it all the way in so it's flush. Okay, and now I'm going to add my spars, the long one in the front, and I'm keeping all the wires above the spars. So you slide that one into the tape, and the little one's in the back, and you slide that all the way in. Again, I'm going to keep the elevator wire below this spar, but I'm going to put the rest of the wires above. So, and it's just going to be easier to do it now than to try to pick them through the spars later. You can, I mean, it's not going to be impossible, but it'll just be a little easier if you pick them through. You know, get these 2 wires on top, actually these 4 wires, the throttle lead, the elevator, or the aileron lead, the aileron lead, the throttle lead, and the 2 motor wires. Just get them up above the spars, so up here where you can get easy access to them for when you're plug them into this receiver and into the harness for the power. Okay, and then you're ready to put the other half of the wing on from the other side, doing the exact same thing. You know, try to keep the wires above. You know, you can straighten them out a little bit if you want. Take the curl out of them so they behave a little better. And then I'm just going to hold the plane from the other wing and keep it tilted back like this, guys. Yeah, I know I'm off camera, but try to keep this pointed up, you know, the spars, because they'll slide right out of this wing. They'll just fall on the floor. So if you keep them tilted back so that they're stay in the wing, the other wing, it's easier to get onto this wing. And I'm sorry I'm off camera, but I'll show you here in a second. Okay. All right, so now we're going to finish sliding this in, poke the wires up in here. You want to be very careful here, because if you get a wire trapped while you're sliding the wing in, you're going to put a big dent on either the fuselage or in the wing that you don't want. You know, you don't want to do that. So make sure you don't have any wires captured in between there, that they're all inside the fuselage. You know, they don't have to be perfect lined inside. You can straighten them out afterwards. Just make sure they're not hanging out where you're going to get them trapped, and then you're going to have a dent someplace that you don't want. So final check here, make sure they're all inside the fuselage. They all look good. We slide that in, and same thing, you know, just get your wires pulled up in here so you have easy access to them. And I think there's one more here I gotta pull up here. So I've got my two reds are up. Where's my other black? And my two throttle wires are up, and my two ailerons are up. Okay, so they're all hanging up here. The plane's upside down. They're all up inside the bomb bay on the top of the spars, and the elevator wire is under the spar. Okay, and the same thing, you slide it all the way in until you can see it flush inside the fuselage with the fuselage. So the inner parts of the wing should be inside the fuselage, and all your wires are right here hanging on the bottom of the bomb bay. So I've got two blacks, the two reds, two throttles, and the two ailerons, which are right here. So I got all my wires hanging right here so that I can plug my receiver into them real easy in the harness right here. And if I want to, you know, I could fish them through here if I want to put the receiver up in here. I don't think I'm gonna. There's all this room back here. I think I'm gonna leave this just for the battery up front here. I don't think I want to put anything up here. I'm just gonna leave that for the battery. So I'm gonna put my receiver, I'm going to plug all this in with the harness and everything and keep it back here in the bomb bay area, back in the back. So, alright, so let me go get the screws and I'll show you how to screw it together. Okay. Okay. So there was a little Ziploc bag that only had this L-shaped Allen wrench in it, and these two long wood screws. They're pretty long. You know, it's a tiny little, you know, but it's pretty long, small, long. That's what you screw the wing on with. Now I have changed my mind. I decided that I'm only going to leave the elevator wire. I've decided to just pull out of the front spar, but I still have it under the back spar because I think it's easier to just, you know, keep it up in the airplane, but fold it back over like this. Because again, I'm going to put my receiver back here, and I think having it, you know, the lead came all the way up into the battery bay. I'm not going to use it up there. I don't want it up there. I want it back here. So I pulled it out from under the first spar, and I just have it looped under the back spar so that, you know, if I pulled up on this and it wasn't under the spar, it would come all the way out here where the servo is. And so I have it looped under the back spar so that it'll be easier for me to just like fold it over like this, plug it in the receiver, and it again will stay up in the fuselage. I won't have to deal with that. Okay, so now we're going to put these two long screws in these two holes inside the fuselage. Now, it's only screwing into wood, guys, a little piece of plywood. So don't over tighten. It's not necessary. The tightness of the screw has nothing to do with how secure the wing is. The wing is secured because of the two spars and the fact that there's a screw going through it into something, anything. Okay? So don't get crazy tightening this up. It's not that important. If you over tighten it, strip it, it might fall out during flight. So you don't want that to happen. So just, you know, thread it in. When it snugs up, it's good enough. You know, don't over tighten it. Don't strip it out in the wood. You know, just get it in there. Tighten it up. When it gets snug, good enough. Don't go any farther than that. It's just threading into wood, and we don't want to strip it. So that one's already tight. Having a little trouble getting this one started. Let me. I think it's because I'm holding the wing instead of the fuselage. So let me try that. There it goes. Just have to give it a little wiggle. Okay, and that's it. They're both snug, not trying to over tighten them. Got a tiny little screwdriver, and that's it. Alright, so now all our wires are here, ready to put into the receiver, and we can close up the bomb bay. Okay, so depainting, removing the paint on the elevator surfaces. Okay, go to the Dollar Tree, get yourself a roll of tape, packing tape, just clear packing tape. Doesn't have to be reinforced. You get a roll like this for $1. Okay, and this is more than good enough to remove paint from foam. Okay, if it survives this test, then you can glue over the paint, because if it won't come off with this, it's not going to come off either after you glue it. It'll be fine. So don't stress over this, guys. I can't stress it enough. Don't stress over this. Don't overdo it. So I've already done this. I'm going to demonstrate it some more, but you only want to do about 50%, a little more than 50% of this. You don't want to go all the way out to the final edge where it's going to meet in the fuselage. Okay? Because if you do, you're going to end up with this. Okay? If you try to take it all off, you're going to end up with this. Okay? You see the white paint here showing? And look. Alright? You see that white edge? You don't want to end up with that. Alright? Then you're going to have to touch it up. So if you come all the way out to the very edge, that's what you're going to have. And the same thing on the bottom. Okay? You're going to have that white, right there, you see that white edge of paint. the white foam, the bare foam, right there. Okay, you're going to end up with that. So you don't want to go all the way out to the edge. You want to stop way short of that. Like I said, 50%, anywhere in the 50% range, a little more than 50% is more than enough removal of paint, so that when you push it all the way in, like that, you end up with perfect edges. Okay, no white foam showing. You've got the black to the brown without any white foam. It's a perfect seat. Same thing on the bottom. Okay, there's no hint of any. And I know that's hard to see because it's black, but you see, there's no hint of any. No white foam line. Okay, it's black to black, and you don't have to touch nothing up. And that's more than enough surface, guys, to secure that in the plane. So don't overdo it. Now what I do, I just take a piece of tape. I tend to just pull this back way more than I need, fold it back over a little bit at the end there so that it's easy to find the edge again. Just, don't have to be perfect. And then you cut this part off that you didn't fold over. Okay, and that just gives you something to grab a hold of. You got an edge now to grab a hold of. Alright, so we're going to take a little piece of this, we're going to cut it. Well, we'll just use it like this. Alright, and you just, like I said, you can always go farther. You want to start off, way back, barely on the edge here. Okay, you can always step in a little farther as you go if you think you need to, but once you've gone too far, you can't put it back. So don't try to get it all in the first swipe. Work your way out to it. When you're comfortable, you've got it in the right place. All right, you push it down really hard, especially over any of the paint. Really mash it into the paint. Okay, and then you rip it off like a band-aid. Okay, and if you look, you can see it took paint off. Alright, you can see right there. I'm trying to get the glare out of it. But, yeah, there you go. You see it took paint off. That's what you want. Okay? You do that a couple of times. You don't have to get it all off. Listen, that's more than acceptable. That's going to work just fine. I did the end here too. This paint in the middle is on so good, doesn't need to come off. You can glue to that. If it won't come off with the tape test, it's good enough to glue to. Same thing on the bottom. We've got this nice area here on the bottom. Pretty big area of bare foam. All that combined is way more than enough surface area to paint, to glue to. So you don't need to go any farther than that. That's plenty. Okay, so I've already done these. I've done the end of these. I'm not going to do this because there's so little to grab a hold of there. It's just not worth risking, on these out pieces where the rudders are glued. I took the paint off the end. You do not need to do this 45 area, just the very end. The 45, it actually is exposed. If you take the paint off, it's not going to be very noticeable anyway, but you don't need to. Just the flat on the end. Okay? And then these two pieces will glue together just like that. And you'll end up with absolute clean paint to paint, brown to black, no white foam exposed, no touch-up work. It's just going to be a perfect fit. And both top and bottom, black to black. No foam line, no touch-up, no black touch-up, and that's more than enough surface area. Because the good side of that is, guys, if by some reason you have a bad landing, and you want to put this on with contact cement, foam tack,
is fine. The glues that come with the kits normally, the contact cement, that's fine too. That works perfect. That's what you want to put this on, because you would rather have this happen, okay, than this stay glued and it breaks this in half, okay? Because if it just comes off, it's a simple glue it back on. You know, you just get some more of your contact cement out, you glue it back on just the way it was originally. It won't come off in the air. It's only going to come off if you crash. And you just, you know, you glue it back on, and, you know, I'd let it dry a good hour, you know, just to be safe. And you're ready to fly again, okay? But if you break it, well, now you got to fix it. You got to probably reinforce it with a toothpick or barbecue skewer or a piece of carbon fiber, and you know, and that's going to take a lot longer, and then you're going to have a broken edge here that you're going to have to repair to make it pretty again. You know, it's a lot more work than just, if that comes off, just glue it back on. So I don't recommend trying to glue it on with epoxy, CA. You just use the contact cement, guys. That's my best advice. And it will not come off in flight. I have never had a surface come unglued in flight that I've gone to the trouble of taking the paint off of. Now down inside here, and in the fuselage, you just use thin, you know, a thin piece of tape. Okay, so what you're going to do for getting down inside these areas here is you just cut yourself a very narrow, and it could be, you want it really narrower than the area you're trying to detape, depaint, and then just do it more than once. Because if it's too wide, you're going to be into the edges, and you're going to risk that you know, chance of taking the paint off this edge, and you don't want the paint off this outer edge. So, you know, cut it a little narrower than the actual area you're trying to detape, and just stick it down in there. Let me turn this around. Again, take your scissors, only rub it in where you want to take the taint off. Don't touch it anywhere else. Just, you know, rub it down in there where you want the paint off. That really didn't get much, but yeah, let me try it again here. I really didn't get where I wanted it. Try to get some more of this off in here. But this is a very narrow piece of tape, and so they got a little more, but not much. So that, I'm calling that good enough, because if the black isn't coming off, then it's good enough to, you know, with the tape, then it's good enough to glue to. All right, if it's not going to come off with the tape, it's unlikely it's going to come off. You know, it's stuck to the foam good enough to glue the glue to the paint. The paint's stuck to the foam. It's good enough. So don't overdo it, guys. Don't get crazy. Trust me, it's not that critical. You know, we've got a nice clean surface there for glue to stick to. You know, the contact cement, and you know, if worst case scenario, guys, is if you have a bad landing and it comes unglued, at least it's not broken. You know, it just came unglued. Glue it back together, you'll be good to go. If it breaks, now you have to decide, you know, how are you going to fix it? You're going to reinforce it. You're going to replace it. If you're going to replace it, you're going to have to buy the elevator and the rudder. You know, like if the bottom half of the rudder breaks off because it didn't come unglued, it was glued with epoxy or something, well, now what are you going to do? You're going to buy a new elevator and a rudder? And did you epoxy this to the airplane? Because if that's the case, you're probably not going to really get this out of the airplane. That's why I say, guys, you know, just use contact cement. It's more than enough to hold it in place for regular flight, And if you do happen to have a bad landing and you hit this in a way that would damage it, you'd rather have it come unglued and come off the airplane than break somewhere else. So, you know, this is more than sufficient to stay on in flight, normal flight, without a problem. And if you have a problem, hopefully it's just going to do this and not snap it in half. Okay? And the same here. You're going to want this to release from the fuselage and come off rather than snap off somewhere that you have to fix. All right? So that's my tip there. Let's move on to the next part. Okay, so the reason I wanted you guys to glue the tail, the wings, put the wings on first, not glue them on, but install them first, is so that you can match the elevator paralleling it, okay? So from looking at the back of the plane, if you look, okay, there's the wing, okay, and we're going to bring this down and try to parallel it right in there, and it basically, the wing disappeared. Okay, so there's a little bit of wiggle room on gluing these because it's Hobby King and they're just not that precise. And anytime you're gluing something like this without, now there is a spar in there. So this has a little bit of droop to it, but not much. But the main thing is you want to make sure it's parallel to the wing. Okay, and I'll show you that again. So the wing is gone, but when I pick this up, you can see the wing come into play. And, you know, and it's been flown, so it looks like the right elevator has drooped slightly, but, you know, close enough. They're parallel. So, and the main thing for that, it's going to affect the flight characteristics a little bit if they're not parallel, but it's going to just look stupid in the air. If they're way off, you're going to see it. The plane's going to look like it has a twist to it, and it just won't look right. So I highly recommend you get the wings on first, let them settle to where they want to be, and then glue your tail surfaces to match the wing. You know, looking down it just like this when you glue it, and get them set where you like them, where they're parallel to the wing, and then let them sit there and dry, you know, for your final assembly. Okay, so here's my final thoughts on it. You know, all the props are on. The wing is parallel to the, like I said, the elevator in the back has drooped slightly, but it's still in parallel with the, and I'll show you that again. You see how you can see the elevator, and then it goes right into the wing, pretty damn close. So that's why you want to put the elevator on last. You know, glue that last after the wing is on, so that you know you got them parallel. And then it's just a matter of, you know, trimming your canopies to fit. You know, this is already attached. You know, the main cockpit area is already on, but this has to be glued. This has to be glued. The upper turret and the back turret. And you really want to play with the gun placement. You know, you may have to go in there and poke some holes, and there's foam blocks inside there. You can poke a hole in it to get the gun placement. Make sure the guns are parallel to each other the best you can. You know, the top one's a turret for sure, so it doesn't have to be, you know, the guns can be offset slightly, you know, or facing forward. You know, you have those options. You can make it look however you want, the turret. So if you want the guns off to the side, facing forward, facing backwards, whatever you want to do there. And then the back turret, same thing. You know, it can be put on, and you'll see that when you're looking at it, that it can be rotated. So if you want the guns pointed off to the side for just, you know, realisticness or you know, scaleness, you know, you want it to look like, you know, somebody's in there working the guns, you have that option. And so that's going to do it for the build, guys. It's a good build. It builds pretty easy, but like I said, you're going to have to do some modeling on this one. It's not a 4 screws and you're done airplane. There's too many glue things. First of all, everything but the wing glues on. The stabilizer, the rudders, the all of there's 4 turrets or covers. This nose cone plexiglass or whatever you want to call it, and the real one, nose cone here, the turret here, the turret on top, the turret in the back, all need to be glued. The guns all need to be glued in. There's a lot of fiddliness, and I just recommend take your time, don't rush it. Trim this stuff till you like the way it looks. You can get this particular, especially this front turret here. You can get this, dead straight, angled up slightly, angled down slightly. There's room to wiggle there. So you get yours where you like it. Just, make sure you look that over closely and trim it accordingly, just to try to get the most out of it. Get the best look. Okay, so here's the final install. The wings are on, and this is my radio placement right here. Here are the screws right here. There's one here, and then the other one's right here that hold the wing on. Hard to see it in there with the tag in the way, but right down here. Yeah, right here. Okay, and that's so you want to put the wing on first, and I'll get to that in a minute. Don't worry about this wire. This is my telemetry module here. If you're not running the module, you don't need to worry about that. That's so I have battery telemetry in flight, and then I run my battery all the way back to these stops here. All right, I push it all the way back to this foam stop right here. Try it there first. Don't worry about putting it all the way in the nose. It's not necessary, and you're going to run out of elevator authority if you do. All right, the CG is pretty damn good right here with the battery at these stops. I run a 2200 3-cell 35C, and it does beautifully. So that's where I recommend your battery. Okay. So that's and I put the wings on before you glue the tail. Okay, so my final thoughts. I have flown it. It flies wonderful, but typical Hobby King issues and recommendations. So the first thing I want to tell you is that my elevator servo will not center, and I talked to another guy that has one of these, and his doesn't either. So be very careful of that, because you're going to end up with a porpoising problem. It's gonna climb, and then you're going to give it a little down elevator, and then it's going to dive because the servo is not returning the elevator to center. So you're probably going to have to replace your elevator servo. Typical, I wish Hobby King would spend, an extra 5 cents, 10 cents, even $1, okay, more on the electronics, so that they had better quality servos. They don't have to be expensive. I've gotten very, very nice servos for very little money, less than $3 a piece, and even the Metal Gear ones for less than $4 a piece. So it's not like there's only 3 servos in the airplane. So we're not talking about a huge amount of money here. They could certainly buy them in tens of thousands, get them even cheaper than that. And,
it would make such a difference in the quality of their product if they would just spend a little more money. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. I have bought so many planes over the years from Hobby King with the same issues: dead servos, stripped gear servos, servos that don't center, servos that don't work at all. It's a common theme, and it hasn't gotten any better. And it's a shame that it hasn't gotten any better, but it's just the facts of it. Also, none of the props were balanced at all. They were all horrible. I had to balance all the props, so make sure you balance your props. The motor shafts, one was perfect. Two were, close enough. They weren't perfect, but, I did a test run up on those two, and they were fine. One was way out. I had to do some machine work to get the last engine, the extension prop shaft that's set screwed to the motor shaft, to get it to spin true enough that I could avoid the vibration. So watch for that as well. Check all your engines, your motors. Make sure that the prop shafts are spinning true. Balance all your props. Put it all together. Do run-ups. If you've got vibration, you need to fix it. If you have to do something to machine those prop shafts, whatever you need to do. And listen, if you're having that much trouble with it, contact me. Maybe you can send me the shafts. I do have a lathe. I could possibly fix it for you. So, yeah. Other than that, those are the things I don't like about it. The cheap servos and the bad prop shafts. So what do I like about it? Well, I'll tell you, I love the paint job. I think the paint quality is beautiful. I think their paint lines are very crisp. They did, there's very little bleed over. It really is a beautiful airplane. I got to give Hobby King some props for that. The plane looks good. It came out really nice. It's a beautiful looking airplane. Yes, it has some overspray issues on the cowl or the canopy here, and there's some minor issues with how they want you to put the guns in it. They really don't define how the guns go in the turrets. You have to kind of make that up on your own. So it's a builder's airplane, guys. It's not a quick 3-screw. You're going to have to do a little modeling. Okay, all these canopies, there's 3 here. There's this one, and then the nose, well, 4 actually. The bubble on the very front, the turret above that bubble, and then the upper turret here and the one in the back, all need to be cut out. Okay, and there's a trim line on it. Listen, don't go straight to the trim line. You're going to have to fit it. Okay. Take your time. You can always cut a little more off. Once you've gone too far, you can't put it back. So take your time, relax, make sure stuff fits right. Test where you're putting the guns, get everything, make sure you know how it's going to look when you're done before you start gluing or anything, because these little details make a big difference in the overall look of the plane. And I highly recommend you take the time to make sure that you get it looking right. I had no issues flying it. It does not, under normal flight conditions, does not have a tendency to tip stall. Now, what I've seen on the internet, because everybody thinks, ooh, differential thrust, oh, I got to do that. No, you don't. Don't put differential thrust on. It does not need it. Hobby King recommends, if you're going to put the retracts in it for ground handling, to use the differential thrust. And that's good advice. If you're not going to do that, if you're not putting the retracts in it, you're just going to fly, do not put the differential thrust in it. You don't need it. You definitely don't want to hook it to the ailerons. It's a rudder control. It's a yaw control. What I've seen are these, what everybody's claiming is a tip stall, is a rudder yaw-induced spin, okay? They've got it hooked to the ailerons. The ailerons are rolling the plane at the same time the differential thrust is yawing the plane, and it goes into a roll or a spin. It's a roll-induced spin because of the thrust, you know, the differential thrust. I do not recommend you use it. Don't bother with it. You don't need it. It flies beautifully. Okay. Now I took it way up high and tried to induce a spin, a real tip stall, and I had to slow it down to it almost stopped before it did tip stall. And it was when a plane tip stalls, it's not a slow wing drop roll. It snaps. I mean, it instantly just snaps into a spin, okay? And I had to force it into that situation. It didn't do it on its own. I had to force it into that situation. So as long as you just fly it to the ground, keep your power on moderate, just, you know, let it descend, a nice gradual descent, just keep it flying right to the ground, and do a nice, just before touchdown, you cut the throttle so the props stop, you know, and you just belly it right in, and it's beautiful. The plane flies great, and you know, I just see, you know, I've watched a bunch of people's videos, and every one of them looks to me like a yaw-induced spin, not a tip stall. And I know how they're doing it. It's because they're using the differential thrust. Don't do it, you know. And even if you do, if you're gonna do it for ground handling, I'd put it on a switch. And put it on the gear switch so that when the gear goes up, it automatically turns off the differential thrust. So you don't accidentally use it, okay? Just, you know, when the gear's down, the thrust is working, and you want to have the thrust pull down the motor on the side that's turning, not increase the power on the other side. I saw that on a couple of videos as well, that they're increasing the throttle on the opposite side. So if you're making a left bank, they make the right engine spin up. That's not how you want to do it, because if you're at wide open throttle, then there is no thrust, differential thrust, because it can't go any farther, okay? And then if you're at no throttle at all and work the controls, the motors spin up, which is going to cut somebody accidentally. So you never want to make the thrust vectoring or the differential thrust a up throttle versus pulling back on the throttle on the opposite side. If you're going into a left bank, you want to slow down the left motors, not increase the right motors. That way, when you've got it at throttle off and you're doing a surface test before takeoff, the throttles are not going to go up because you're commanding them down. They're already all the way down. And that way, if you go all the way up to full throttle, you'll still have the ability to use the differential thrust. So just another point, if you're going to go that route, I don't recommend it, but make sure you do it the right way. Other than that, I like it. Now, do I think it's worth $180? No. Not if they put good Metal Gear servos in it for the extra $1 or whatever it would cost to do it. Yeah, maybe, definitely. Is it worth $180 plus shipping? No, definitely not. It was $56 to ship it to Florida. So that at regular price, it was $180 plus $56 made it $230, $236. No, absolutely not worth that. I would not pay that. Okay, so make sure it's on sale when you buy it. Now at $150 plus the $30, now we're back up to $186. I still think that's too much, but you guys are gonna have to make your own call on that. I think Hobby King needs to get back to the free shipping. Not all these conditions under the free shipping. It's getting old. It's getting very old. All right. Every plane I put in my cart, I have to test to see if it's gonna, shipping's gonna be an issue because of weight, because of size. you know, there's so many. If you go read your shipping credentials, there's too many variables. So then the last thing was this plane was on sale for $149.99 plus 25% off, and then I bought 3 of them at the same time to get the free shipping. So I was into each airplane for about $106. And I just found 2 buddies at the flying field that wanted to share the expense to get 3 of them. I sold the other 2 to them that that took care of the overcost, and it was a good deal. So that's my recommendation there too. If you're going to get it, make sure it's on sale, and then make sure you're not paying too much for shipping. It's just not worth that kind of money. So that's it, guys. That's my final review. I do like it. At the price I paid, which is about $106. It was worth it, even if I never flew it and just hung it on the wall. So I definitely bought it at that price with the free shipping by adding 2 more to the cart. But at $186 to $236, no, I would not pay that. I don't think it's worth that. Again, if they could just put some decent electronics in it, nice servos that I'm not going to have to replace, because now there's the cost of a servo I'm going to have to put in the elevator. The ailerons seem to be okay, but the elevator servo is not cutting it, so I'm going to have to replace that. And I think their price on it plus now we have to pay shipping is just too much. So all right, guys, so that's my review. Hope you like that. Comments at the bottom. Like me here on YouTube. Like my Facebook. And we'll catch you on the next review. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.